Yo guys, welcome to another video. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video talking about aiming mechanics, talking about things like general aim, crosshair placement, angles, off angles, and how you should position yourself for getting multifrags. Well, this video was received well by you guys, and for this exact reason, I've decided to make the second episode in the Csgo mechanics series, talking about positioning. So we'll talk about a couple of things. We'll go through individual positioning, on-site interplay positioning between teammates. We'll talk about general macro positioning, and we'll also talk about macro rotations. Well, the most important thing about start of the round individual positioning is that you're not prone to any rushes or explodes, right? For example, on nuke, right? As the A side player, you wanna block an A rush. What you could do, for example, you come up, you molly hot, you jump down looking anti-flash, you come here and you spray into the smoke they throw into the molly, right? So what you do in a couple steps, you use your molly properly, you dodge all their flashes coming through here, right? You look into the ground and you just spray into this small funnel that they could be coming through. And also a lot of times they'll be smoking the same molly, so like they'll kind of be smoking themselves, right? So you only have like one spot to shoot into and you get multifrags for sure. I'll show you an example of when I used to play HUT, A-site. This was my favorite anti-rush, and whenever they would rush HUT, I would always get a multi-kill. So here's the example. Same thing applies for door, right? Imagine you're like the first one as a door player, you molly inside a door, you come here, anti-flash, come here, come here, and you just spray this, right? Like as they're rushing through. Because that's the exact timing that, like after they need door, they'll like extinguish the molly, and they'll be coming just through this small area. I mean, there's many ways to do it. Like as an A-side player, you could also just do this, and also do this, and like play anti-flash, and then like after the flash pops, then like try and kill them running out. But it depends on what your door player is doing and what you're doing. So you gotta talk to each other a lot about how you want to start the rounds. You could also just do this, and just come up here. Like same thing, it's like the same as dropping down sight. You dodge all the flashes, you just shoot here, and you probably get a lot of kills. As a door player, you might also want to go top hut, right? So you molly, you nade here, you play anti-flash, come up here and just peek them. Super easy to anti-rush. Now talking about explodes, right? Imagine you've done this way of playing anti-rush, right? You come here, and there's absolutely no one. Now, oftentimes, players with Tech 9s, right? Teams with Tech 9s will go after this money, so you gotta be careful of that, right? Imagine you do a nade like that would do good damage in case you have Tech 9s. And then you need to pick a spot where you anti-flash for all flashes, basically. Or you need to like either save your molly or smoke and like play like this, and like, try and beat them to coming out, or something like that. What I like to do, however, on A site, is do the anti-rush, and then after like a couple seconds after nothing happens, come here. Now this is a really good angle because the flashes that they throw out hot here don't get you. The flashes that get behind silo don't get you through the roof. The flashes CT vent and main don't really get you. Um, and it's a decent off angle because when the teams run out, they'll most likely be looking here or here or here, right? So it's like you just spray them down, like coming out hot. It's like super free kills for you. And then the same applies to door, like you do your anti-rush stuff, right? Come here, anti-rush, anti-rush. No one's rushing, right? But they have naded the door. What this could mean is that they might explode, right? So you just like get into the smoke, like you smoke instantly. You know they have Tech 9s, there's nothing else happening on the map. You should know that. There's a potential for them to be coming through the door, right? So you smoke, you play in front of it, should be free kills. Why? Because what is typical for a door explode is for this guy to be doing this, right? And then like flashing in front of the smoke so his teammates can run out, or some other guy like adding this flash as well. And what you do is you like kind of beat all the flashes and all the nades, and you're like inside of the smoke, because your molly is good as well. Like you bounce it off properly so it lands here, and all you need to do is just smoke into it and just play in front of it. You know what I mean? Super easy way to block like an explode, knowing they have Tech 9s, but also good to do in gun rounds. A lot of teams like to run these explode rounds, especially with outside pressure. So you just gotta make sure that you know what you're doing, you realize what's going on the map, and you're playing properly against any rushes or explodes. Now imagine you're a monster player on overpass, right? Let's take overpass as the next example. You're a monster player. Your B rotation guy smokes off monster. You have a good spawn, so what you decide to do, you come through heaven, through city spawn. You just decide to just try and beat them before they can come out, right? So you molly, you come up anti-flash, and you just spam and just hope to kill as many as you can, right? It's a really good way to do it, I feel, you know? It's super good if you have a good spawn, especially. You probably get a multi-kill if they do rush, but imagine you have a bad spawn. Then you gotta think about, you can't really position yourself in a way to just try and beat them coming through monster, because by the time you're there, they'll probably be scaled out, you know? So when you have a bass spawn, what you could do, for example, is you say to your team, "Guys, I have a bass spawn. Can someone like take over monster for me this round?" Or you could say, "I guess I have a bass spawn. I'm gonna play from barrel, okay? For info, right? I'm just gonna spot see if they're rushing out. Then I'll like smoke barrels and stuff, right?" Or you could play in mortar and just play off sound cues. Like if you hear three, four, five flashes, then you just smoke barrel off, you know? There's a couple of ways to play it, and it really depends on your spawn. You gotta really be smart about what you're doing if you have bad spawns, and you gotta really communicate it well to your teammates. Otherwise, super easy rounds that you should win can be converted into losses. Now let's take Dust 2, right? Start of round positioning as a B-side player. So what you could do, there's a couple of things you could do, right? And I'll show you the way I did it back when I played in the team. So I would come up, the doors wouldn't be like this, but anyway, I would come up, I would money the doors, come up anti-flash, maybe nade into it, right? And if they would smoke it, then you had good cover, right? So when they rush, they would smoke the money, right? So when they would smoke it, you have good cover to just come in and like just spray them coming out. So that's like one thing you could do. And like if they smoke the molly to try and go out, right? Make sure your smoke is deep, your molly is deep, like at the start of the round, obviously. Otherwise, like if it's here, they could like just smoke it like this, and it'd be more like a lurk smoke, you know. So they could be like kind of going out all over the place. But in general, when they smoke it and you kill the first guy or the first two guys coming through the smoke, then usually they'll just cancel, you know. So if you kill the first one or two players coming through, it's already a cancel for them usually. So it's really important you beat them to any rush they do. Same with an explode, right? So imagine you come here, right? You molotov like deep, play anti-flash, you nade, whatever, you wait, see if they're like rushing. There's nothing coming, right? And you think you're safe, but you gotta be careful because what people do, the second the money fades, they'll do some explode, right? Like they'll smoke the doors, they like have this flash and one guy doing this window flash. So you gotta know that on the timing that this molotov fades, they might be exploding on you. That's when you gotta know like my money's about to fade. I should probably smoke it now. Or I've mollied it, right? And I should probably position myself in a way where the flashes don't get me. And I could kill the first one or two guys coming through exploding, right? And one good example of start of the round position is like after you molly and anti-rush, you come here, right? So where do people flash? Usually flash off the wall into here. So you dodge this flash, and then you peek after the first flash. And what happens is all of the flashes will land here, and you'll dodge all of them, and you just have free kills, right? And then your mid B players can obviously flash for you, or if you have a smoke cliff, you can smoke for yourself and stuff like that. But this is a good example of how to position yourself against explodes. And you could also just instantly smoke it after your molly fades, and just wait for like spams, obviously, and just play behind it, you know? A lot of players like this position these days because you can just dodge the flare flash and then just repeat, right? You can go like that and just repeat. There's a lot of ways to do it. You could also like call over your mid B player and just play card, right? None of the flashes get you. You have you have your mid B player get contact, and then you get second contact, and they're like, well, they're all looking at the window or site wherever he's playing from, wherever he's baiting from for you from. So a lot of ways to do it, but it's important you talk to your player on site and you position yourself well in the beginning to counter any explosive rushes. Same applies for long, by the way. If you have this spawn, long, right? If you have the best spawn, what you should probably do is just cross pit, right? This is usually just a game of spawns. You cross pit, you know, you play anti-flash, come here. And usually with this timing is when you're crossing here, this guy could be here if he has best spawn as well, right? So it's kind of risky, but getting it pit is probably the easiest way to winning the long fights, in my opinion. Because once you're in pit, they gotta just hunt you down, you know, like you're a nuisance. Like they can't just come here and like peek you because the guy could be up, someone could be side, like helping you. Your upper could like be flashing above pit, you know, helping you out. Once you're here, you know, you can really just annoy them. Like you could do this, you could like one-way smoke, you could do a lot of things once you get in pit. But the goal, if you have for top spawn, in general, is to just get in pit, right? You do the running molly, you try and play anti-flash, you come here. And if you really think it's hard to do that, then you could also add a smoke, right? I think Breeze or Twist, I'm not sure which one of them it was. Like they used to smoke this like that, they would molly it like that, play anti-flash, come into pit this way. You know, it's like an added security, but it is a waste of smoke sometimes if they're not coming out. But yeah, so long top spawns always should like try and cross. Depends like if your output and stuff is like trying to boost shorts and stuff, then you should obviously be careful, right? So if your output and your rotation player like boosting shorts and stuff like that, and you're long, then obviously you can't cross pit because you don't have support flashes, and you gotta think of other ways. You know, you gotta take it on your own. You gotta come here, smoke it like that, multi blue, flash like this, for example. You know, these are just like this is just one example of like taking it on your own. Um, but you got to think about what your teammates are doing, and even if you have a top one, if this is good to do in this case in that scenario. Uh, Imagine an explode, right? So you've mollied and nothing's really happened, and you've maybe like smoked it, you know. What you got to be careful of is that the second your molly fades, what people usually do, and also like um, knowing when to take it on your like. And also when you're alone long and like you do the long innate takes, you gotta be careful that like you gotta listen to the flashes, right? If it's two or one flashes, right? It was one or two flashes, then it's probably no one here, right? So you could probably take it on your own. But if it's like four or five, then you gotta be careful, right? They could be coming out. It might not just be fake pressure, then you gotta back away. Because if you die as a long player, that's a lot of pressure on your teammates, you know? Like one thing is giving up long and living, and it's another thing like dying long and then giving long as well. You know, it's a completely different dynamic. Uh, there's also long explodes, right? So imagine you've cross pit, right? And you're like, okay, I'm gonna smoke long house now, I think I'm fine for now. Then you gotta be careful of this timing that they might explode on you when you're Molotov phase, right? So if you're in pit, you gotta be careful that when you're throwing the smoke, for example, you're smoking long house, that they could be coming through with flashes, right? So what I like to do is after crossing pit and having like no one rushing. So after I like cross pit by mullion, right? I ask my rotation player that helps you take long, obviously, because most of the times you're three players here. I ask him to smoke for me, and what I do is I instantly get into a position where I like dodge all the flashes and play anti-explode, right, for the first like 10 seconds. Like smokes last like 17 to 18 seconds, so you're fine like playing here for the first 10 seconds. So what happens here, right? This is smoked, and you gotta think about what they throw in long explodes, right? So they'll throw a flash from car through the door, which pops right around in front of doors, right? And they throw these flashes. And when you play here, you dodge basically all the flashes, and you have like 3 kills basically. And when you do this, you gotta be careful because smokes don't last forever. So there could be a timing where when the smoke fades and you're like walking away, trying to get into safety when that smoke's fading, they could be like sitting in the smoke or bursting after the smoke fades, So things you could do is like you could re-smoke it. When you get into pit safely, you could hold your smoke. Like people these days, like they jump spot, There's like a lot of things you could do. But you just gotta know the timings, you gotta know where flashes pop, and you gotta know how to counter explodes in this situation as well. Same applies for basically every site. Applies to B Dasu, applies to long, showed like I showed on nuke, just applies to basically every position where T's like to explode a lot. Now talking about on-site interplay positioning with your teammates being served around. There's a couple of things you gotta think about, right? It's the same with the explodes and rushes I showed you. It basically is the same concept, but then with your teammate on the side you're playing with, right? Imagine your B anchor guy. This is his handling of like playing against like any rushes or any explodes, right? He does this, he does this, he does this, and like he plays her, and then afterwards he comes here, right? And he does this, for example. This is how he likes to play it, maybe, and this is like what you talked about. And you, as a mid B guy, play committed into the side because they have tech nines, and you think they might explode on you. So what you could do is play car and then have your teammate play Xbox. And what this does is that your teammate Xbox spots them and baits for you, and you have like basically free kills. And then your teammate after that like peeks off of you. Or you could play like here for example, and it's the same concept, right? You dodge flash your side guy, get a kill, and this guy just basically cleans up. And when you think about it, this is like let me think of examples, right? On G2, for example, this would be JKS as a side guy and Hunter being the mid B guy. How many times have you seen Hunter get like a multi kill from it, right? When you think about FaZe, for example, it's Twist being the mid B guy, and then it's Robs being the anchor guy, right? Twist is like likes to play here as well, and Robs oftentimes is like in positions like this, or just hiding, and then Twist is baiting for him, or Robs is here, for example, on the box maybe, and like Twist is just getting free kills, basically just hiding in the side. So mid-round positioning, right? I'm gonna take long as an example, right? You're the long player, you've crossed pit, you're safe, they're not exploding. It's about 110, 1 minute left on the clock. Um, and what you're doing right now is like you're just jump shooting with your smoke in your hands, right? You see them, you spot them coming out long, right? If you die as a long player, it's super easy for the T's, considering it's a super important part of the map. It's super easy for the T's to just do a smoke wall, right? And just cross and get sight for free if you die, that is. So you as a player, your role in this position is to get info. Only play with flashes, like only go for kills when you have flashes, um, and just stall for time as long as you can, right? So imagine your AWPer has flashes, you dropped him, or your like mid rotation riflers dropped him, right? You ask for flashes, and you spot them come out long. You ask for a flash, right? It pops, and you just peek and go for kills, right? That's one good way of like playing long pit, right? Another thing you could do is like you could spot, they come out, you just tuck in and you just try and stall for time as much as you can, You just hold like this, maybe like this just a jump spot, like jump up. And what this allows your teammates to do is react properly, right? Your teammates could push B, your teammates could push like mid, your upper could come card and help you, you could come in and try and just kill this upper on the in long house trying to hold him, maybe you could flash over. Maybe your opera could like do even retake nades, if he has like a smoke left, like he could do this. You could flash over, right? Um, your rotation guy might come. There's a lot of things you could do, but it's important that mid rounds, it's important you realize what's going on the map and to think about how you, as an anchor player, could position yourself in such a way that allows you to play off your teammates, right? Especially in vital areas such as long, right? If as a pit player, as a long player, you die instantly, what do they do? They smoke cross, um, flash over, so your upper is blind, right? They peek, they go up. It's a free side basically. So it's super important that you know what you're doing as an anchor player. You play off flashes, you stall for time, allow your teammates to play. Same applies for B, right? Imagine you're the B side player, late round, you're playing here. You're going for a kill or two, right? You get contacts. What you need to do is stop for time, right? You get flashes from your mid B guys, you peek maybe, go back to kind of hiding, right? You don't really just overcommit and you just get one and get traded, Because what that enables your opponents to do, right? They kill you, they come here, they smoke door, they molly window, right? And then come out and then they just have to side. They plant the bomb. It's an unretakeable situation most of the times on B. Make sure you know what you're doing. Use your teammates' flashes and nades. Stall for time. Go for kills appropriately. Just play smart. Now, talking about transitioning into late round, right? Now, in my opinion, this is where it gets fun. If the opponents do come towards you, you're prepared for it, you're comfortable in the position you're in, and you know what your responsibilities are, right? Whether that be getting a multi kill as like an A rifler or just getting info and surviving. Um, you should know what your role is basically, right? Imagine you're an A player, late round situation, you're playing towards banana. You should know that if it's a 5 against 5 and your rotation players come up from B, you should know that it's your role to walk up and get info, right? Just walk up, get info. Oh, guys, banana seems cleared. Careful, B or long. Super easy info to give. Just sets your teammates up properly to get to position themselves well and to just win the round, right? If you're a monster player, right, and you started here and you played anti-rush in the beginning, and this smoke is faded, but you have a smoke left, right, and it sounds like an A default, so you know for sure, okay, 3 players towards A, 1 player towards connector, probably one towards lurking towards B. So what you do is you make sure you don't die to the lurker, right? You just play for info, and late round you just keep juggling, right? When you see spot one, you just all you do is this, play anti-flash, right? Play in front of the smoke. And if they do come through the smoke, it's basically just a free round for you as a monster player. So you gotta think about a lot of things, right? Um, Imagine playing monster. What you gotta do usually is play for info, play with teammates, play off trades. Maybe you're here. Um, you gotta be aware of certain things, right? Like careful of like this boost here. If you're gonna play here. If you're like two players here, you gotta talk with your teammate, like play some like setup right with this guy here and then, like this guy here maybe. Um, and then like if they do come out monster, you smoke this, you delay for as long as you can, right? So it's different. It's different for every single position. Um, but it's on you to know what you should be doing late round. If whether that's getting info, whether that's playing for time, whether that's going for kills, etc., etc. Now, just adding on to transitioning into late round, imagine it's nuke. The opponents have done outside smokes. Your door player or your ramp player is rotated down. Um, let's have in this situation have your ramp player rotated down. Your AWPer has rotated towards ramp and taken over a deep radio. Your rifler is somewhere along these lines, right? Just covering like heaven and main and whatnot. And you too, as a side player, are kind of not screwed, but you're in kind of a hard position, right? So they could maybe go into main if your rifle outside is not really holding it. If he's holding heaven only, they could go outdoor. They could go out hot, right? They could kind of sandwich you. And if you're like rifle outside dies, for example, then you're in a really real big pickle, right? So, you should talk with your teammates on A. Imagine you're the A side player, and you notice they've done outside smokes. They could be down secret. Your outside rifler has died. Your operator is like just focused on radio, not really holding outside. They could come heaven any second. It's on you or your door player to be like, okay, we should probably take control. Let's push lobby, right? And a lot of people say let's crunch lobby, right? I think you guys are probably familiar with it. But what this does is that when there's a lot of pressure outside, they could be down secret and stuff, and usually there'll be one lurker lobby. Um, this is all you gotta do, right? You push lobby, you try and find the lurker guy wherever he is, and best case scenario, you kill him without any of you dying. Or another good scenario is that the first guy pushing probably dies because this lobby lurk isn't stupid, probably dies and is aware. But you trade him, right? And when you trade him, that's the second you should know that the T's will react, right? And like it depends whether they're heaven or they're down. Like you probably don't know. Then you gotta be like, okay, we've killed the lobby lurk. The four other players are either working B or working outside, right? Then that's on you to react, right? So imagine one of you has died. Gotta be aware of heaven, right? You gotta be aware of main. Maybe the call is made that, oh, there's B nades guys, they're coming down. You should rotate instantly to B. Um, you know? That's like one example of a late down situation that happens a lot and that you could easily just replicate when you're in a tough situation. They could be flanking heaven on you, they could be in B, they could be flanking L, etc. etc. Just pushing lobby, getting info, trading the lurk, or best case scenario, just killing the lurk instantly and being able to over rotate. Now it doesn't have to be like that, right? Imagine it's a 5 against 5 and they haven't really done much outside. It's like 50 seconds left or so. Door's been naded, your door smokes have run out. You don't have any door smokes anymore. But you're A site. So you talk to your door player, right? Bro, can you go CT vents? You say, for example, can you hold my hut? You say, right? And then you say to him, I'll hold your like door walkout and I'll peek hut off you, right? So contact hut, I'll peek off you. When they come out door, I'll flash CT vent for you so you can peek, right? Just a couple easy things to say. Doesn't take more than a couple seconds, and it sets you up to get basically just multi kills and just hold your side together. Same example on a site, same concept. This guy is here, for example. Your teammate's like default. This guy's baiting for him. This guy is like the main and door walkout, basically, right? This guy sees him hot. He doesn't peek anymore. He peeks off this guy here, for example, right? Depends on like what he's shooting at. Peeks off him. Another super easy example to do. But just gotta talk with your teammates, right? You gotta know late rounds. You gotta talk to him. Yo, can you play here in a spot? I'll hold the flash for you. When you see them, I'll flash. When you see them, I'll Molotov. If you see one, I'll flash in as double peak, for example. Can you spot for info and I'll instantly smoke after, right? So On sites, you should never be silent with each other. You should always be talking, always be making plans, always be talking, right? And just make up plans for whatever could happen next. Now, imagine, let's talk about positioning in post plans, right? It's not that big of a part of the video, but I think it's still important to talk about. Now, imagine you take a bomb site fairly early into the round, right? You need to take into account the utility, right? The utility of the opponents. Imagine a Mirage, you do A smokes at the start of the round, right? With some mid pressure, and you've planted the bomb at like about 130, 125. Now, what this means is basically all CT players, except for maybe the A player and like the connect player, will have all smokes and mollies left, right? Now, this is important to you because you want to position yourself well in a post plant, um, and you just cannot early round sit in like the obvious post plant positions, right? Let's go to Mirage, and I'll show you what I mean. You can't sit in the obvious post-on positions because they have just a lot of nades, they have a lot of mollies, right? You can't just sit ninja and just get HE'd and mollied down, because it's obvious you could be there, you know? Now, you have a couple options when this happens. Um, you could, for example, bring the fight to them, right? Now, I can show you what I mean by this, right? So you've done A smokes, right? And you've planted before the smokes faded, you planted opposite default. Now, what you could do is, for like as a palace lurk, because usually either the palace lurk will like, have smoke to top mid or you just have a smoke left, right? The palace lurk could, for example, like smoke top con, right? And like flash stairs for like you guys, right? And you guys can try and take jungle control using that, for example. There's a lot of ways to smoke top con. Also, same thing applies for jungle, right? You smoke jungle, have your teammates fight con, for example. But the point that I'm trying to make is that um, you take control of another area of the map because your teammates and you don't have much area to play around in, you know, you don't have any control of the map. You just planted the bomb, went back to the obvious positions. So this is what I mean with option A, bringing the fight to them, right? Now you could play lesser common spots, right? Like, I don't know, like you could play here, for example. You could play in a position where you don't get easily like mollied, you know, you could play here, try to off angle. Um, I don't know. You could try and play a less common spots, but that's not ideal. You know, it's just depending on your teammates and yourself to just win your duels. You could also just like sit in the positions like innate and mullet and just have like no of the consequences, right? Maybe you want to play ninja and you have a smoke left, so you decide, okay, you know what? I'll just sit here and I'll smoke myself, you know, and I'll just try and stay alive. It's another option. I don't recommend that, but you could do that as well. But you just need to communicate with your teammates, have ideas. Can't just sit around with like sitting ducks and just rely on your aim to win your duels, basically. Now, talking about late round post plans, right? Now, late round post plans when you're a T player are, I think, to many players like a godsend, right? Entering and getting traded really doesn't sit well with anyone, I would say. But you know, throwing a flash or two and trading your doomed teammates and getting to play an advantageous postman, that sounds like heaven, I would say, right? Yet there are still many players that would willingly sacrifice their teammates to completely butcher a post plan, like picking a spot and just peeking off timings and holding angles, hoping to headshot someone instantly and win their duel. Right? That's what a lot of players do, but that's wrong, right? You should talk with your teammates, set up a crossfire, peek off each other. You know, fight one controlled area of the bomb site, give up the other. You should just, at the end of the day, not play for yourself and just try and kill as many people as you can. You know, just play with each other, and that's how you win late round post plans. I could give you one example in the spot I'm standing in. Right, you have this cross from here. Your teammate, you see him, he's Chris J, right? You tell your teammate Chris J, yo, I have the cross, peek off me. You shoot, your teammate does this. You know, it's a guaranteed kill for both of you. Now, um, I won't talk about it too much, but I think it's important to note general macro positioning and rotations, right? I'll take Inferno as an example and also quickly talk about Nuke, just in short. Now, imagine you're a long player, right? Has a spawn, asks you to fall in smoke, right? And flash for him, like this, right? And what he does is he comes in and he just goes for a quick peek, you know? Now, what the opponents will see when this happens is, oh, there's a potential that they might be 3B. The AWPer just shot banana and they did the fallen smoke room, right? So an instant bell goes off in the opponent's heads that there is a potential that they're 3B. or they know for sure the op is B, right? So what they'll do is, yo guys, can we fast take mid, right? Just flash off short and just like run out mid, you know? Because why? Because the op is B, obviously. So we can just take these duels without getting punished by an op easily. So you as a CT player, imagine you've taken over long, you should know that they've heard the op B and they might react, right? Now this same thing applies for if your opper is supporting you both taking B, right? You've done your usual B take, you know, there's smoke deep down here, and you've killed one guy like here, but you've done it by showing both of yourselves and having one guy getting a flash assist from flashing here, right? And good players, smart players will instantly see this on the kill feed, or the banana guy from them will call it, right? Two players speaking, one guy flashing, they'll instantly just do this, right? Take these tools here, you know, go out here, just go out here, just try and take space, you know? This is what they'll do, for example, right? Because this is the only way in a 5 against 4 situation that they could find a timing and try and win back the round, basically. So I'll show you another example on Nuke. I feel like Nuke is a bit more complicated, but I could try and try and give you a situation. Now, let me show you an example on Nuke. Now, I think this is a bit more like complicated, this map, but it's like the same thing applies, right? Imagine you've done outside smokes and you know for a fact that always the door player just does this, right? It does this, like they've done outside smokes, goes down vents, and just does this, right? Like does something. It doesn't really matter what he does down B, you just know for the fact that he's the one to rotate. The ramp player never rotates, the rifler, like the vent, like the main rotation player never rotates. You just always know that it's the door player. So what you could do as a T side, right? Like a basic reaction, and this like you could do like for some, you could do some instant A execute, right? Like afterwards, right? And what this like does is it allows you to go at A by knowing that the A side guy is probably on his own, considering this door guy always jumps down when you do outside smokes, right? So all you gotta be careful of is that the op player rotates heaven easily, right? And his main guy goes through the smoke, and then eventually this guy will be in the vents, or he will be going up secret and be kind of late. But usually when there's like an A hit, he'll be ready to go up vents and just get action, right? So you should know that when certain rotations happen and they don't change, they stay the same, that the T's might react on you and try and punish you. Because essentially, this guy A is on his own, this A side guy, right? Whether he be top HUD, whether he be A side, he is by definition on his own because you as a door player rotate so fast. You as a main player never rotate down, you're always outside doing some shit, and the operator is like never heaven, like he's Zaiwu or like he's like ready to kill them hell, you know? And he's like late rotation to support A, and by the time he's here, you're already out A basically. So you gotta know, understand general macro rotations. You gotta know what the opponents like to do, and you gotta react of that. And you as a CT should know that. Oh, they know that probably I've rotated that event so many times now. They might try and hit A because I've never been A side with my A side teammate. Now, same applies to ramp, right? You do outside smokes, and your radio lurk is here. He's crosshair, right? And he hears him. He has his volume super high. He hears him do this, right? So a lot of ramp players will be for here, for example. He hears him like drop down like this, and he would for sure hear that, right? Like being here. So what does this guy call, right? Your ropes or your breezy or you in your team as a lobby dog. What he calls is, guys, every single time we do outside smokes, this ramp guy instantly drops down. Can someone come ramp and hold this deep flash for me, and we just go out ramp, right? So this is like an easy counter. Your guy does this. You come here, the hell upper is blind. And there you go, right? Before this guy can rotate, take over ramp, you've already taken ramp control, and this guy B is basically sandwich, and he's fucked if your teammates do go down secret and you come out ramp like that. So, rotations you need to understand and know the consequences of, and know what the actions and reactions could be of the rotations you do as a CT player. Now, there's also things you need to know and do if you play a certain position instead of in case of an important macro position change. And this could, for example, be if you're an APR, right? This is the example I was just talking about. Where am I? If you're an APR and your ramp player likes to go down, you gotta be careful of this timing that when you rotate towards here, that they could be bursting out on you, right? So maybe you're the upper, you like use your multiplayer first, right? And then you get into position, right? It's the same for every single position basically on the map, I feel. If you're a side player and your guy vent rotates down, then you should know you're probably alone and you should be careful that they could be coming at A any second on you and you just try and delay. Yo? And I just showed Nuke as an example in Inferno as well. Um, but it's just basically on every single map, right? Overpass, your B rotation player on CT side rotates up to A, your 3A. Then you two as B side players should know. We're two here, we should probably play for info, not to play to kill them. We should probably not be in front of monster together. We should probably be in water and painting graffiti, etc., etc., right? Super obvious things, super important to think about, to know the reactions of, know the consequences of, etc., etc. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I haven't touched on all the things I wanted to talk about because this video was getting long, but I hope you guys enjoyed and let me know if you did. Comment down below and I'll make the next episode in the CSGO Mechanics series.